through this type of pain and this type of pressure that creates these type of symptoms, essentially the symptoms of mental illness. Maybe we're addicted. So the bad news is, as entrepreneurs, we're all messed up. The good news is that we're all messed up together because we've chosen to do this, and we have each other. Like in this room, we've got our EO members that all run companies and student entrepreneurs here. And I think that's actually one of the distinct advantages that we have. You've got to be a little bit messed up to change the world. Someone famous said that. It wasn't me. I agree with it. All right, so as that really embarrassing intro mentioned, I'm best known for starting this company called Eye Contact. We grew it here in the Triangle from 2002 to 2012. I was the hacker behind this thing, so I was the guy that wrote the first version of the app. My junior year at Carolina, just sitting on my futon. And in my apartment, it took me about 2.5 weeks to write the first version of it in the evenings after class. And then I met a guy named Ryan who helped me start to market the app, and we ended up co-founding the business together. And we built that company here in RTP. It's funny to drive in here, I live in Chapel Hill now, but just to drive in here, it's like so many memories. We had offices over there and over there, and we built that company up to, we had about 350 employees across several continents. We had 275 of them here in the park, just about a mile from here. I think we did 49 million in revenue before we sold it. And you know, the story of most entrepreneurs, right, is we like to talk about that story, right? The other part you heard in my bio is that I've run 13 companies, right? That was only one of them. Most of the others have been huge steaming piles of shit. So, it's a numbers game. So if you do the math on it, let me just give this to you in math, right? No emotional charge behind it. So I'm 36 years old. I started my first software company when I was 16, so that's 20 years. I started 13 companies. That's about a year and a half between every company. About a new company about every year and a half over 20 years. But when you consider the fact that for 10, 11 years of that, while I was running Eye Contact, the one that did really well, I didn't start any new companies, right? So outside of that, that's 12 companies over about 9 years. So that's literally one new company every 9 months over my entrepreneurial career, right? So I started to think about that maybe the secret to being successful as an entrepreneur is not all these other things that everybody tells us about being the best person at pitching, which I'm terrible at pitching. Judy, I'm glad you like pitching. You're really good at it. Yeah, you can come pitch for me, actually. It's not maybe who can build the killer product. It's not who has the most charisma or the most connections or something like that. I think it's the person that can survive the longest. I think it's as simple as that. You've got to stay in the game long enough to have a chance to survive. There's a group of entrepreneurs I was involved with a couple years ago in downtown Durham. We called ourselves NC Spark, which sounded like a really cool, happy name. And it was just a bunch of CEOs, basically, of early stage companies getting together. We'd get together like once a month, have a couple beers, and someone would pitch our group. And we weren't necessarily out raising capital, but it was just like, you know, hey, this week, Charles, you pitch, and we'd all give them usually terrible feedback. We'd had a beer or two, but it was kind of like this camaraderie sort of thing. It came time for us to build a website for this little silly organization that we had that, you know, membership was free, and if you showed up, you were a member, that sort of thing. And one of the guys pitched to the group that we should have a cockroach as the mascot. And I was like, this is the stupidest idea. Like, we need to be like this cool-looking organization with all these like young startups and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Dave, this is Dave Haddon, if you know Dave Haddon. Dave, why the hell would a cockroach be the logo? And he said, you can't fucking kill a cockroach, can you? Loved it. All right, so I think I'll close by just saying